당도 시 저기 다달바단 템지 김비 도버지에 람 냠렌지알이야다 먼저 저기 기부 숨기 람 이름바스 디나네 기신다 기부 챔비 람 이름바 나네다 저기 지게 태바 챔비 람 냠렌지라 제들라 안은 도당아 니제 제사디네 자당아 저 당보 냠렌지알라 안에 당보 기부 중에 람 이름바 로장 되네 기부 중에 람 이름 로장 되네 잠니제곰 and the Janjushoto Semkiakum, the Neparchin to Yamlenji Ores, did Doyakos on Yamlenji, the Nigi Yamlen Jene, and Jig does Lo Jang Jetinigi, the Neako Chana do dinner, and the Jig, Maran Yamlenji Alakosu Ores. Tanya Yamlen Dambo Kokanatsursene, the Lama Giliano, Lama Tingi Tempacilla, Wang Shu, the Ne Wang Shune, the No Jig Lamigi, Jig. 원신의 원기 값보다 나게 더 무슨 쉬야다 남에게 안 담가 나야 지쳐서 담가 담지다 dombatie sung dine nga juga gi nyamne che na ne da nga jugi ka so re na nga la mi nyamne che ba na na jerim na zorim se de du se nyamne che ore se odi se nga ju kisi da dine ya di shu sarwa.
Good evening. So over the past 2.5 years, we've been looking at all the stages of training that one needs to engage in order to attain omniscience. First, we started looking at the trainings that are shared with the practitioner of initial capacity. Then building up on those skills, one embarks on the trainings that are shared with the practitioner of intermediate capacity. And on this firm basis of a powerful, stable mind with a determination to spiritually develop, one then turns one's attention to the Mahayana Dharma and engages in the trainings that are unique to a practitioner of greatest capacity. There we looked at the variety of trainings within the sutra teachings of the Buddha, and through having trained well in the Sutra Mahayana teachings, the Buddha thereafter taught Tantric teachings, or the Buddha taught Tantric, the division of the Mahayana Dharma of the Tantric teachings for those students who are trained well in the Sutra teachings. When one enters into the trainings of Tantra, one does so through receiving an initiation or an empowerment from a qualified teacher, and then one protects the vows and commitments that one has undertaken. And then one engages in the trainings of Tantra, and in the case of highest yoga Tantra, that is first the generation and then the completion stage. I've completed the presentation of all these trainings in detail, how one can cultivate them in one's own continuum. And now we are at the final section of the text, where which is all about dedication. And we're at the dedication prayers from Lama Tsongkhapa's Song of Spiritual Experience.
Yawajibi Yonsu Zobe Lam Gole Nagu Shibi Gawati Roa Kunjan Namda Lamzan Dan Jame Gujik Jene Molam Dep Najungi Yang Molam de Tartap Tardu Dajan Dijin Yang Dep Salo Seji Odu Sungarwan.
In our text, The Essence of Refined Gold, we're in the middle of page 49. If anyone's following from The Essence of Refined Gold, it's verses 44 and 45. And I'll read out my own translation, which on YouTube will be on the below the picture. It will be there, available there. In order to further familiarize my own mind, as well as to benefit others of good fortune, the complete and perfect path to pleasing to the conquerors, I've explained in a way that is easy to understand. Through this virtue, may all migrators never be separated from the completely pure and excellent path, I pray. I, a yogi who make prayers such as these, you who aspire for liberation should pray likewise.
다 Je Rinpoche 다 랑기 일라 공바 자실당 세드 다데 Je Rinpoche Lam Rim Text 세드 송야디 아니 송고베게 직과바도 김세라 송거와 제단 가르제네 송거라스네 랑기 일라 공바 제위치라스 소소게 냠는지 다 장주 람전 송셰베 조지게 람전 송셰베 제름주 그런게 람전 되게 퇴섬 검숨제 데 람게 렘바 냠는제 소소 냠는제 제 랑이 일어 공바 되니게 냠는제 보 공바디 야 타르치네 산유 코파 토비 칠도 소소게 곰 냠는제데 도치네 니 칠도 랑이 일어 공바 제위 칠스 대산 되니게 냠는제네 소소게 냠뇨데 예데 바디야 아니 즉 마샹리아 체바다 되니게 좀 바디 지베제네 소소게 도보 권역 공도 필요 제도 네 좀바 인사지 김전지 다 람림 뒤된지 송고비게 좀비 김전 직디 송거래
These verses, these two verses, are from Lama Tsongkhapa's Song of Spiritual Experience, and the third Dalai Lama's text, Essence of Refined Gold, is a commentary to that. So looking then at the first line from Lama Tsongkhapa's verse, in order to further familiarize my own mind. Here, Je Rinpoche is writing the reasons why he composed the text, the Song of Spiritual Experience, or the short Lam Rim. And here he presents the first reason, that he's written this text based on Lama Atisha's Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, and he has composed this text based on Lama Atisha's text in order to deepen his realization of the topics and increase his own good qualities. So in the first line, he presents the first reason why he composed the text, Song of Spiritual Experience.
자다 심제 담지기 되는 산조고가 토비치도 랑기 도바 권역 공도 피비치 페페네 산조고가 토비치 좀바 인선 송마로 대인자다 니베들 가상샹랑 판바치비치르시데 자다 심제 담지기 되는 산조고가 토비치도 소수게 도바 냠령 공대 공위 권역 공도 피비치도 좀바 인자 단 니베들 가송어서네 가상샹랑 판비치르스 니데니기 직도스네 좀바 있나 셰바네 셴 두샤 아니 가상세디 태바 챔피기 취 람림 냠는제게 태바 챔피기 람 기부 중의 람미를 징게 람미리마 챔별 람미 디나제 안 도다가 니게 냠는 제게 아니 쇠남나 예되겐 아니 류된 유튼데 류된 튕긴 대주게 대상 톱되베 아니 조석이 튕긴 차상하네 아니 쇠남 예되봐 안 될래야 된바 되냐다 된바여봐 뭐봐 예되겐 되네게 냠는제게 제 가와드 된바스 대수션다 강사 대솔량 펜비치도 건축이 될래야 안퇴섬 공솜제네 산요고방 토비치도 안데 건설 펜비치도 아니 송바 인세 나디 좀비게 김제로 송도 고바.
In that first line, Je Rinpoche states his first reason for composing this text, which was to aid his own progression towards enlightenment. And then the second line, as well as to benefit others of good fortune. So here, the first line was setting out his motivation to compose this text was for his own spiritual development. And the second line was to aid the spiritual development of all others, including those who wish to start out and cultivate the preliminary trainings in order to eventually attain a path of the Mahayana Dharma, as well as those who have already attained a path of the Mahayana Dharma, those who already are bodhisattvas, and who want to deepen their trainings and hasten their progression towards enlightenment. So in other words, for all those, whether they are ready to engage in the training shared with the practitioner of initial or intermediate or supreme capacity, Je Rinpoche composes text for them so that they could, through hearing teachings on this text, reflecting on it and meditating on it, they can deepen their own good qualities and rapidly progress towards the attainment of their own enlightenment.
디치니레 때네 가랑주게 가라하고 거르스네 제림치게 람림 뒤에 송바디 Je Rinpoche 송비 갑로 군론 가르치여 버려서는 심지어 탐지기도 산여고바 토비치도 자주 심지 군에 나제 송바인 바디 군론도 것도 버래 니바디기 가르고 버서는 지사 대송바대 현심전달 제용게 현심전 탐제 야 자와의 잠바다 자와 현심전도 就코비 동안에 저지야 상예살로贵别치도 송바에 현 자와의 잠제원게 마 군론 전수 심지 군에 라 아니 샤리아 잠바다 제요관에 너 송도 봐지 아니 켄제 켄베연데 뉴베연데 제요연데 켄제 뉴스뮤관에 아니 송시베게 다 제름치게 람림 뒤에 송베게 군론들라 자주 심유군에 라 안체도 저와 현 심전라 펜베치도 송바자 잠 인체게 토네 송바래 해서지 디지 것도 거라 가지고 돼 제가 요새 그랑 일을 공부 제위치 심전他们三九国宝特别去送把的了话제가 군론들 송비 군론들 자주심 요군에 나와 매 것도 거래 제가 다 니바디 현라 펜베치 송바래 지도 디 송바데 잠나 제요 온거 송바데 고고래 제가 잠제기 냠는 군론 자주심 요군에 랑 안 현라 제가 잠바다 제요 온거 송바데
Looking at these first two lines together, in order to further familiarize my own mind as well as to benefit others of good fortune. It's very clear that this is where Je Rinpoche is stating what the motivation was for having composed this text. And we can understand then his motivation that this is how a bodhisattva expresses their motivation for all activities. He's engaging in this virtuous activity so that he can create virtue and speed his own progression towards the attainment of enlightenment. And why is he striving to become a Buddha? It is for the sake of others. And that's the second part of the motivation, that not only did he compose this text so that he could progress to become a Buddha, but it is to benefit others. And therefore, he's composed this text to make it publicly available so as to aid suffering beings who are bound in the suffering realms of samsara, to aid them in their own spiritual development, in their own development of good qualities that will eventually lead to their attainment of the omniscient state with the good qualities of wisdom, love, and power.
난 야wan 예배기 요소 조배 람세리 나 람림 뒤된 난게 손셰비기 죄자 람냠len지기 죄자 람 이림바데 가르스 간스 요레 세다 죄자 송고레 죄자 간스 요레스 야wan 예배 람 요소 조배 람 요소 조바 세되자 야wan 예바세데 산예 점된데 그런게 도나마 도다나나바 유망고 송바데 sem전 탐제 도르드나 sem전 탐제 안 장쇼스 잠이 장쇼 sem곰 안에 야상 타르도 상지 고바 토비슈 송바 장자레리어스 제가 상예기 롭된 제샤바디 나랑 저에 다가라 냠는 제바이나 아니 자와 상예 투기고레스 자와 예빌람스 다 자와 예빌람네 가레람나 아니 기고 당을 저게 당보 기부 중요람이 로자야게 기부 중요람이 냠는 제다 람냠는 바체 기부 땡게 람냠는 제rin 바체 다 기부 첨보 아니 네 가서 셰베게 안잠 이제 자주셈 파신주기 냠는 제 안디 나 가서 셰베다 베네가 안에 규리시 람냠는 제rin 바 어디 찾아 용수 속바디 람디다 람림 뒤에 날바 뉴제자디 디송요레 제가 디에서다 제가 디 상이 유송셰베기 람 냠는 이름바 용수 속바 청 마창와메바 창와 차상 창와 용수 속바 마창와메바 창와 마너와 마주바 아든 두스체네 마송셰 된자유 제자딘지 예서 디 냠는 제바인다 저기 두 상이 상여 줌내디 가서 된다 최송바 나신가도 두스냠는 제바는 상여 줌내도 투 개바 나가 저기 나서 냠는 집에 냠는 가서 또 보길래 끼어도 상여 줌내들이야 주비 쳐봐 제거래서 제산데 상여 줌내를 주비 쳐봐서 상여 줌내도 투 개바 개바이 람 냠는 제들이에서 나 죄샤디 되는 시에서 숨어로
Motivated by love and compassion, for all suffering beings. Je Rinpoche composed this text. And the third line then specifies the subject matter of the text he composed. The complete and perfect path, so pleasing to the conquerors. The conquerors, or the Buddhas, they have taught extensively, if you think of Buddha Shakyamuni's extensive teachings, as well as other Buddhas who have taught. And their teachings are presented here in accordance with the trainings that are shared with the practitioner of initial, intermediate, and supreme capacity. All of them are included here. And not just the sutra teachings, but also the division of the Mahayana Dharma, that is the tantric teachings. They are referenced here too. So this is what makes this text so complete, because it references all the stages, all the graduated stages that a practitioner needs to engage in, cultivate within their continuum in order to become a Buddha. That's the topic, a subject matter of this text. And it's students receiving these teachings, contemplating these teachings, and in particular, gaining realization of them, generating the meaning of these teachings, the meaning of this text in their continuum. It is that delights the conquerors. I'll read the third line again. The complete and perfect path, so pleasing to the conquerors.
The Geshe de Lam Rim Geshe de Tin de Shins, Da Gueva Dan Geshe Nisi, Song Guevio Gueva, Tin Gesha. Dana Ma Song Du Gabla, Ganis Song Yore Labna, Gole Ngagi, Sheba, said the Gole Ngagi when a Sheba, said the Golawa, said the Beco, Ben Tsig Yung Jim, Bear to Donda to get Chasan Sandioba, and the Tsig Go Yamlin Chia, Tsig the year. Be chagu member go de wu, and the Yamlan Jalia, so Luchin, Lola Shaya, Gom de Dum Yawachi Luchin, Sik Yung, Duan Chasan Sawa, and a Gasori, then Yamlan Jalia, Shimbatipa, Chimatuba, Chimanoa, Shimba Chimachishin Luchin, Sonsha Banza, then Yamlan Jalia, Lela go de Wu or Esse, then is Panyamlan Jirangi, Rimbat, Delia, and it's Sonya Sik Yung chair. And don't I know what Chasan Sandio, and Yamlenchi the Rimbadia, Manoa, Martuba, Yamlenchi, Dum Devuchin, on those in the Sun US order.
In the fourth line, I've explained in a way that is easy to understand. Being easy to understand, we can understand in several ways. Firstly, very few words were used. This text that covers the entire path, the complete path to enlightenment, is merely 45 verses long. But despite being so complete, so short, it is complete and it's perfect or unmistaken. And the reason that it was this complete and perfect text was composed in a way that is easy to understand is so that it is easy to put into practice. In other words, or to put it, translate that literally, it's easy to gain experience of. And it's gaining experience of the paths that are presented here. That is what delights the Buddhas.
장도제 냠뇨 가서 곰 퇴섬 곰숨제 안 소속의 냠뇨도 되는 냠뇨의 토네 안에 지금 송샤반자 대차사다 곧 거림 마주바다 마노와데 냠뇨된 송샤바다 송유반자다 마주바 마노와 세냠네제 둠데보츠데 송거와.
And the reason Je Rinpoche could compose a text that is complete and perfect, in other words, unmistaken, but in such a brief, condensed way, is because he composed this based on his own experience, and his own experience gained on extensive knowledge. And therefore, he could compose such a remarkable text.
예보로 쉬우나 양 저기 냠는지야 뒤수 되네게 나 마통에서야 나직 되네게 차상 자야라 고합라 공부를 책으로 근데 람림 첨보를 집에는 직 첨보 직 개발이나다 곧 개부 중요한 일은 뭐지 냠는 기 롭장 제도가 유능모 거야 되네기다 용수 조바 람 용수 조베기 롭장 제에 퇴섬제야 지금 유능모 쇼 거야 제 되네기 뒤수 유능 나려야 롭장 제토야 고합 라고 말해 다다데 한저 람림 뒤뒤디 직 유능도다 인보 처상 상도가 인자 아는 저기 냠는 제바이나 뒤수 통도지 나려야 아니 지 뒤수 공부이나 대설이야 자야 고합이요 봐 뒤수 정부 뒤수 고합 야고 이건 잘해 되는 relate 자야 고합이요 저선 차상이야 되네게 자야 되게 언제니 요바 인자다 dumde wosia de ngode wosia disor ko la wosa denegi dumde woye sungorwa.
A further way that we can understand the expression easy to understand is that a benefit of a text that is so brief as this is that for those who do not have a lot of time on their hands, they can still nevertheless access a text that presents the complete and unmistaken path to enlightenment. And just from reading the words, they can gain some meaning as well as a clear presentation of the sequence. And when they are able to receive teachings on it, they can come to understand it in greater detail. Others who have a lot more time on their hands, they may be able to receive teachings, say, on the great Lam Rim, the Lam Rim Chemo. But for this, one needs an extensive amount of time on one's hands. For those who either don't have a lot of time or do, a text like this is still accessible. Because even those who do have time on their hands, then they can spend a length of period like we have, coming to know the text very well.
난 델리안 타마디 시비 개와디 수도 개와디 수도다 제름치기 소수의 군로 장쇼 심지 군내라 심자 탐시 상유투비 체도 장쇼 심지 군내라네 심자 탐제라 펜베시도 셴리아 펜베시도 잠바다 제외토네 아니 직 용용 돈다 차상 창와 마노 마추버디 송바인자 델라테네 아니 군로 장쇼 심지 군내라 셴리아 펜베 심지 송바 안디 죄자디게나 상예기 고방 토비게 람 차상와 여바이 송바인자 델라테네 갈이야 개와 빠도메바 차사요 레소르다 제가 데네기 개와 디기 아니 개와 디 또비 니베 또비네 조와 군자 남다 람사다 달메 규칙 시듬 조와 심전간에 지네 차상 데네기 람데 다데 차상와 덴시베 람델이야 퇴섬 곰숨제데 냠는 제제 람상 데나 마자와세 뒤다 남바군도 상제고바 마도비 바도 델레야 냠는 제제 냠는 제야 라워쇼스 네르네 안지 냠는 제네 상제고바 토바 규어쇼 세데 디스모 조와 군제 남다 람사다 잘메 규르지 세데 데모남 두스티네 투메 나와르다.
And then Je Rinpoche expresses a prayer, a dedication prayer. And here he's dedicating the vast stores of merit that he accumulated from composing this text with the motivation that he had, with the motivation of profound love and compassion to lead all suffering mother sentient beings to attain their own enlightenment. With that motivation he composed this text. So he knows vast stores of merit have been accumulated, and now he comes to dedicating it. Through this virtue, may all migrators never be separated from the completely pure and excellent path, I pray. See, here this prayer is from life to life, until each being achieves their own enlightenment. May they never be separated from the complete and pure excellent path. In other words, may they continue from this point on, life after life, with all the required conditions to train and develop themselves spiritually and achieve as quickly as possible their own enlightenment.
대신 뎁살로 세대다 난주영에 야냠는 가서 난주영에 야 몰람데다 답세대 지사다 난주영에 야 몰람데다 답세대 나등이 두스네 몰람 답하나 녀마ङ에 다 당보 코로나야 기고 중요 남지림바 로장 징게람 로장 잠니제곰 도체 장주심도 저는 냠는 제비 갑래네 미도시네 몰람 답기에서 오다 나중에 야몰람 되네다 제가 되네게 몰람 답 안라 야 라마다 이담리야 뭐 예민도 되고네 대바당 안 지금 대바지야 안 점로지야 안 되네기 돈에 안 지금 도시네 계주 냠는제 안 냠는 제비 제들이야 안 주세 몰람 되네게 그디네 산유고마 마토이 봐도 나니지 람데 그디나 냠내지야 고브라와쇼 세는 몰람 대비에서 나중에 야 몰람 되다 답시도 냐마 냠는 제비게 다디 가지고 손집에 개와디 몰람데 다디 녀르시기로 봐. 다 나중에 야 몰람데다 답세 냐마 말한게 람 냠는 제비 내가나 두실 몰람 답고 유스. 나중에 야 몰람데다 답세나.
The seventh line, I, a yogi, make prayers such as these. So here Je Rinpoche is saying that he has made prayers such as is expressed right here from lifetime to lifetime. He's been making them to his Lama, to his Yiram and Buddha, seeing them as indivisible in nature. He's been making these prayers since he started to engage in the trainings that are shared with the practitioner of initial capacity. And he continued to make prayers such as these as he progressed into the training shared with the practitioner of intermediate capacity and continued throughout his training, even in the trainings that are unique to a practitioner of supreme capacity.
난 타르드 기간 대신 뎁살로 왔어요. 나 경험주의네서 경험주의네 타르도 코위를 타르지 코위 동안에 타르지 산지고 모두 타르바다 탐지기고 봐 토버 뒤고를 동안 뒤고만 대화디 띵이 대화 뒤고로 와서 지상 경험주의네 띵이 대화 되어 인자 델리아 토비 칠도 안 델리아 안지게 기부 중요 남기는 발로 롭정지 퇴삼 퇴바지 안 삼노다 돈달로 공잡 되네 기부 딩기라 남기는 발이야 안 지마 퇴안삼 돈다 공잡 되네 기부 중요 첨배 남기는 바 잠이제다 자주선 파신 중인 냠네 도천 델리아 퇴삼제 안 공잡 안도시네 안 같이 나게 냠는 왕슈 되는 냠네 도천 냠는 제고레스 도시에네 안 델리아 말람되고스 다 처럼네 처럼봐도 산제고 마토봐도 람디다 안 게디나 냠네 제고 없라와쇼 세네 세디점만 봐 개와 치마 산제고 마토게 봐도 람디다 아니지 냠네 제라와쇼 세네 도시네 탈뒤에 계획장 경선이나 대신 대처로 디나시 몰람 자고레스 되네 자고레스 숨거다.
And the final line, you who aspire for liberation should pray likewise. So here Je Rinpoche is expressing to his students, follow my example, follow my example. You who have received this teaching, who have read this text, received this teaching, and have developed an aspiration to attain complete liberation from suffering and thereby to be able to lead all beings to their own enlightenment. You have given rise to such an aspiration. Dedicate in this way. And wherever you are in your training, whether you are starting out training in the practices of a practitioner of initial capacity, or if you are in the training in the practices shared with the practitioner of intermediate capacity, or if you're already engaged in the bodhisattva trainings, pray like this. And pray that you and all sentient beings may, throughout this life, and from lifetime until lifetime after lifetime, that you're never separated from the perfect teachings and the perfect teachers until enlightenment for all beings is achieved.
내려야 담아디 지게디기 제름시 그런 게 람린 뒤에 숭배게 안에 군롱하다 숭 체도 자와 안생이 된도 숭배게 체도 거봐 숭배게 거봐 안에 숭배 거봐다 안에 대 숭배게 죄자 안에 되네 요래서 안에 슝 마선의 직용용 도나니 보셔서 뒤도와 요래서 되네 숭 되네 숭배게 당에 되네게 마 숭시배 개와디 사바디 조와 sem제 탐제 람냠네 제제 산요고파 토벌 규르규와 쇼스 몰람잡 then 몰람지 마자사자 다 제상 다 디니엘데 말 디니마데로 다 되네 안젤라 안은 다 나랑 녀마 람 냠는 집이 qabl나 미도 수수 몰람 제비 냠는 데네 집이 몰람 데네 답기여스 안은 저어지네야 두스 냠는제 데 몰람 데네 답부그래 세링하서 마 두스네 담바 제바레스.
In these two verses, Je Rinpoche has clearly expressed his motivation for composing this text, which was, in brief, the enlightenment of all sentient beings. And then more expansively, firstly, to speed his progress to the attainment of enlightenment for the sake of others, and he composed this so as those who read this text and receive teachings on it can gain experience of these topics in their own continuum. Thereafter we saw that the subject matter, the topics of this text, was the complete and perfect path to enlightenment. All the trainings that we need to engage in, cultivate in our own minds to become Buddhas for the sake of others, he is covered here. Thereafter, Je Rinpoche presented his method of explaining, that he presented this text in a way that is easy to understand, so that practitioners can clearly come to understand the stages to enlightenment and put them into practice. And thereafter, Je Rinpoche dedicated and encouraged us to dedicate in the same way. And lastly, we can understand here too that this text was composed by Je Rinpoche based on his knowledge and his experience, and he's stating that here clearly, that this text was composed based on his knowledge and experience. And therefore, what has been presented here is from his own experience. Therefore, he has achieved these realizations, and he encourages his students to strive like he did and achieve the same realizations.
나디네 이제 손음 저쪽에 숨고 왔던 맛이 내마 안에 시송스 담중 냠비권에 세되다 제림치게 다데 되네게 송바디 장이 몰람 되네 잡아인 결혼을 냠네 이 몰람 냠는지 몰람 되는 갸구여스 한 결혼이나 냠는 데네 몰람 되데 갸고래 세 송와디 다 제림쟁아 주 뛴데 되세 말아야 송송 냠비 삼당고래 제래 담가 담중 냠비 권에 시도와 제상 말아야 대신에 제림치 송교디 말아야 송송 선배 제림치 소수 뛴데 여바지 말아 송송 냠비게 데네게 말아야 담바인 삼비게 삼당고래스.
Now, we have just below these verses, we have our translation is a little different. It says, bearing in mind these teachings of Je Rinpoche. So let's express this differently. So this has been written. Now we go back to the commentary by Sonam Gyatso, the third Dalai Lama. And here then we rather read this line as, I have composed this commentary with or as if Je Rinpoche was before me, teaching me the song of spiritual experience. This is how I composed this text.
Now
you recall in last week's talk that it was presented then that when one receives teachings or meditates on them, one should do so as if Je Rinpoche is before one, giving one personal instruction. And that is how Sonam Gyatso composed this text.
고숨 자와군 괜히 바시주버 진일로 없어. 어두스 몰람 자고래서 그러다.
Now we come to the dedication from Sonam Gyatso. So again, the translation will be a little different, but it's just below bearing in mind. From this day forward, in this and all future lives, I will respectively prostrate at your lotus feet, and studying your teachings, I will practice them all with my 3 doors. Please bless me to accomplish only what will please you.
디 겨선음 겨주의 안원줄이야 몰람 잡산 랩고를 디니신 몰람 잡고를 해야지. 디디 칙티. 겨선음 겨주의 안원줄이야 몰람 잡탕 두수 삼다 몰람 디니 삼다 잡고를 해서 몰람 잡탕 안원줄 랩고를 디디.
So here, Sonam Gyatso is offering his dedication prayer, but he's offering it to us as a teaching in terms of how we too should dedicate.
대내 잠제 세도다 제상 제름치 되는 송제 제름치 람림 뒤된 람림이야 퇴섬 제량아 좀 뒤되는 송대에서 다 뒤되네 잠대 체럽군도다 세도 니린직 냠는제 깨와 치마디마 냠는 맞아봐 마인바 근데 그디 이내 체럽네 체럽 깨와 디링다 아주 제름치 송제베 기부 치른 람기림바 차상이야 퇴섬 곰숨 퇴바다 삼바제야다 아니 마음바나 개와 치마라야 다가랑 안젤이야 퇴섬 검소지 개와 치마자 상여고 화 마도비 바도 아니 기디는 델냐면 지라와 쇼세비게 대내 잠데 안처럼 군도다 세디 되네 두세 냠는 지긴 선배 삼다 당고래서 그럼.
The first line, from this day forward, in this and all future lives. So here we're being encouraged that this is how we should be making dedication and practicing right now and throughout this life, and continue in our prayer and aspiration to commit to continuing to train like this life after life after life until we achieve our own enlightenment for the sake of others.
Thank you, 구입에 쳐봐다 세디 나 기디네 최세대 제제름 치순 거 당아주 당아주기 겨스는 ge장한줄 몰란 접상 라고로와 라면도 제자 기디네 제름 첼이야 배 고숨 구입이네 샵기 빼몰마 직투제네 차세 구바치 대바치 제자 제름 치 송셰베 람림 델이야 롭셔제 디디리네 소댕이 하나사je 고바 마토게 차랍네 차랍 그디네 산je 고바 마토게 바도 제르미 송주베 람딜레게 냠는 지기 야다 아니 그디네 제르미체 메유 셀라마 오송이 시에시제 네 시에셀라마 오소체 네 제르미치 고요 로마체 아니 제르미치 샤블야 안 차차야다 대바체 고숨 구베근 제르미치래 류가 유숨 요관에 최고부야 되네고 이게 라워 쇼스비 뭐람 자고래지래 고스 교자 빼면 구입에 쳐봐다서는 교자의 제름치에서 나 제름치 교기 잡을이야 그 빼면 잡기 빼면이야 두제 차세 대바제 안 결혼이야 류가 있으면 거네 안 최고부야다 되네 지라고 쇼스야시.
Okay, the first two lines, from this day forward, in this and all future lives, I will respectively prostrate at your lotus feet. So here, bearing in mind the context, which is that Sonam Gyatso is composing this verse for ourselves, where we hear, I will respectfully prostrate, think of ourselves. He is requesting us, from now, throughout all our lives, to respectively prostrate at the lotus feet of Lama Tsongkhapa, prostrate or offer homage with our body, speech and mind, make offerings such as prostration with our body, speech and mind to Lama Tsongkhapa. Either Lama Tsongkhapa visualized before us, or when we before our own spiritual teacher, see him as indivisible in essence from Lama Tsongkhapa. And in this way too, one continues to respectably prostrate at his lotus feet.
나 교송 연진 고숨 자오군 괜히 배시 주버 진일로 세대 교송 세대 제일미체 교랑의 송셰베세 우라다 송 교랑의 송셰베 람된집에 기부 충 치르 람기림바 안 제가 탈바 탐지 김에 토바제 람기림바 댄셰바 델라 교교 송 교랑의 송셰베 송델레야 년진스등이 퇴바제 야네 야도 nye 안디도나라 야네 야도 삼 디네 야네 야도 곰 되네고 최섬 검숨 제어도 아니 내기 고숨기 자와세들이 나기 자와 류기 자와 이기 자와 차상 디비초서 말어봐 개비초서라네 신리아 고숨기 자와 간대지네 탈바다 탐지 캠베고 원토야 돼 신리아 팬비기 자와지 용화 쇼세비기 뭐람 자고래지
And the third line, and studying your teachings, I'll practice them all with my 3 doors. So here, Sonam Gyatso is encouraging us to make in this prayer, to commit to Je Rinpoche, that life after life, not only will we make offerings such as prostrations to Lama Tsongkhapa, but that we continue to study his text, to reflect on them and meditate on the meaning, and to do so not selectively, but all of them, in that we should be training in all the trainings, those that are associated with a practitioner of initial, as well as intermediate, as well as supreme capacity. All of these we should hear teachings on, and then reflect and meditate on them. And we should do so continuously, life after life, and we should engage in practice of those teachings with our body, with our speech, and with our mind. Also, as to purify our mind and accumulate virtue in order to become a Buddha for the sake of others.
kyunye bashi drubar jingi lo sidi denegi da jerimchi kyorong sonje begi kiwu lamji rinpe nyamlen chasangwa yongsu zogbachi pa nge nyamlen che ne ane gosumge jawa tamche gewe shoso tang xianlai penpe shoso tang yadu ane gedi na nge dine nyamlen che pa ina da kyunye sidi jerimchi nibu yonguru wada jerimchi koronga lamden che jangandu lamden suji che pa ina nibu yonguru chesa tu yin denegi nyegi 자와 짱짱 주투버쇼서 괜히 바식선 결혼이 예비게 자와 짱짱 주투버쇼서 당한 저게 샬라 뇌베 삼바단 디베 자와 제바나 근데 메니베 초차기로 다 개외 고숨 유군의 자위 개외 자와 샬라 판베선 다 잔슈심 유군의 라디 진바도 푸 지금 냠는데 제바나 제름 진예부는 거라 제사 되니기 결혼 그 투예게 자와 고숨이 자와 그디나 디짱짱 마도 되니기 딜레 도 바직비네 지금에 되네지 지금에 되네지 네바짱야 지투어 쇼스 되네기 아니 메디네 냠는 제발라 안델이야 예 친한게 바시 미용하다 아니 튕긴지게 용수做네 냠는디게 야고지 요고요고 아니 냠 똑바줄래게네 안 결혼한 산조고 뭐 되비게 안 결혼게 진일라브로지 세대 진일로 없이 어두 숨거래 말함제거래
I'll read the verse one last time. From this day forward, in this and all future lives, I will respectively prostrate at your lotus feet, and studying your teachings, I will practice them all with my 3 doors. Please bless me to accomplish only what will please you. So here, Sonam Gyatso is encouraging us in the final line to turn to Je Rinpoche, requesting his blessings, so that we may accomplish only what will please him. In other words, returning to Je Rinpoche for blessings, or to express that differently, for inspiration. And inspiration to what ends? That is complete and perfect teachings. We may always remain connected closely with them and strive to hear teachings on them, to reflect on them, meditate on them, and thereby to generate them within our continuum. And not selectively, but all aspects of the path. We hear, with this aspiration, we commit to striving in all aspects of the path with sincere dedication. And accompanying this, we wholeheartedly commit to live in accordance with the teachings, and thereby to refrain from all harm, to take control or care of our own mind and prevent it from going to the side of non-virtue, and rather taking care of our mind to ensure in every moment it's on the side of virtue. So we commit to apply ourselves wholeheartedly to virtue, and in this way we live in accordance with the teachings. And furthermore, when we request blessings or inspiration, it's so that we can continue to accumulate the causes that in life after life we have all the required favorable circumstances to be never separated from the perfect Lamas and their teachings, and continue rapidly with our spiritual development for the sake of others. Now there's a more common dedication prayer. So in the book it's at the bottom of page 49 and the top of page 50. So I'll read the standard FBMT translation. By the force of the victorious one, Tsongkhapa, acting as our direct Mahayana virtuous friend in all our lives, may we never turn away for even a second from the pure path highly praised by the victorious ones.
Tishi Shinyong Sun Zebi Tu Sidu Donala, Nagitina Molam Jedin, Seramne Sever Padu, Seti, Jawa Chimada, Sanjoko Mato Yupadu, Je Rinpoche, Jawa Zonghabas, and Je Rinpoche, Kurangi, Zonghabe, Dash Serapkunda, Jawa Tejo Kiwi, Tejo Shinyong, Serapkunda, Jawa Zong, Tejo Shinyong, Jejun Nesida, Je Rinpoche, Kurangi, Lamache. Tabachimbi, Lam Rim Text, Jamni, Jajusm, Domani to be Sherala Sobana, and Nagi, Lam Rim Text, and Gedina, Sanjoko, Mato Yabado, Kurangi, Lama, Jiroshe, Lama Che, Kurangi, Ni Lama Che, Denigi, Ni Kurangi, Send a Chu Shuyada, Denigi, Gohapra Show, Sachi Malam Javares, Sarapkunda Java Zombie, Tesho Shini, also Zebi, Ni give Shini, also Zeroshe said.
The first two lines. By the force of the victorious one, Tsongkhapa, acting as our direct Mahayana virtuous friends in all our lives. Here we commit to Lama Tsongkhapa that from life to life, throughout this and each and every life, until enlightenment is achieved, you will be my direct spiritual teacher for both sutra and tantric teachings.
다 대주기 대주신용세 제비투스는 결혼의 계획 신인 제발에 되네 안에 대주기 대주신용세 계획 앞에 남자 되니라 기지점여도 와마유신 계획 앞에 남세도 지나다 저게 전주심 육군이라 파신 중에 냠면제 안지 냠면제 직제 안지 전주심 육군이라네 등가 나게 냠면 계획나 조르게 냠면제 냠는지 림바디 개외 나빠 가서네 산지고마 토발라 람디 냠는지네 냠는지네 산지고바 토고고래 전주sem바데게 다디 냠는지게 람디수 냠는지고래 산지고로서 냠마 람디 냠는지네 산지바래 마옹바나서 산지바 람디수 냠는 마제바 산지에 매바래 디 냠는지네 산지고 지사 디네자 디네기 나베 람 다 전주심이고네 나데 파신 주게 냠는다 예림나 조르게 냠는디게 림바디게 안 산 제르미 초롱근 신영의 양의 기회 신영 오수제 네 결혼전에 아니 로마제 결혼전에 취 송오수제 무슨 냠는 쉬제 네들이야 곰 냠는 제제 아니 산유고 봐 뉴트 토버쇼 세비게 어두시는 기제점야도 아마 유지했네 가브리에는 냠는제 안 가브리에는 냠는 마지막 샤샤가 멤버지 무티제 산유고 봐 마토요 봐도 무티제 냠는제는 요원요가 산유고 봐 토버쇼 세네 안데 지금 말하면 제 말이지 이바다 사사르다 기지점여도 마유시스 제주 신용어서 제비 뒤래 예외갑에 람사디니라세 예외갑에 람사디 람디기제 람사디 기지점여도 마유시스네 기지점여 유언매바 산요고바 마토유바르 결혼전에 결혼이 라마 오수제 네 결혼전에 최오수신 퇴선 검소전에 냠는 탈sem버 용어쇼스는 뭐는 자고래서
Yeah, it would be better to look at all four lines together. By the force of the victorious one, Tsongkhapa, acting as our direct Mahayana virtuous friend in all our lives, may we never turn away for even a second from the pure path highly praised by the victorious ones. So here, we're stating in this aspirational prayer to Tsongkhapa that throughout this life and each and every future life, until I achieve enlightenment for the sake of others, I am and I will continue to be your student. And you continue to teach me directly. Teach me all the trainings that are required to enter into the paths of the Mahayana. Teach me all the trainings that I need to cultivate within me to progress along the paths of a bodhisattva, such as those of the six perfections, as well as the trainings of secret mantra, the generation and completion stages. Train me exactly how you yourself trained, how all the current bodhisattvas in the world are training, and how all the Buddhas trained when they were bodhisattvas. Teach me perfectly in accordance with your own experience. And moreover, I commit to you that I will train continuously, not sporadically. I will take care of my mind at all times and all situations, keeping my mind on virtue. I will not be sporadic, but I commit to training in this way at all times.
Dadi shologa nidi and Yawasum Yasang Molam Denis Jagores and Molam Japan also do somebody. That then ma 60 digi, that Yawasum Yazokorongi, Lam Rim Sejuma, Sonship, Sumbegeda, Digi Kawadi, Gawang Wajadi, Nangore.
We should approach the second verse in the same way as the preceding verse, which was that the conqueror Sonam Gyatso composed this for us composed the first one and then quoted the second one for us to recite as if recite from our own side. So it was a dedication for us to recite after receiving all these teachings. Now finally comes his own dedication.
That is Sonia de Ansel Malum to Scourer, Sonia de Jazan, Yawasum Jazo Coroine, Jerim Sungat Lam Rim Text from Yamlin Chiri Kabla, Monam Dine Cabures, and Monam Dine Cabu, Council Dina Cabure said, the Jerim Sumbanaji, Chiva Chagorwa.
And in fact, the correct way to understand these two verses is that they were written with a dual purpose, and that dual purpose was the same as Je Rinpoche composed the Song of Spiritual Experience, which was, this is how he himself practices, and he's now encouraging his students to practice in the same way. In other words, he composed his two dedication prayers as his own dedication and encourages us to dedicate in the same way.
And then Yawasum Jazo Korongi, that Molam Jadelia. Jo marme zena zonga be dembe nigo janshu lamji rim lamji ne du manor dambadi dogun jawaki be lamje sho set ondu sin the malam nare.
Now we come to the final dedication verse, which was composed by Sonam Gyatso. So this will be page 50. Through Lama Atisha and Lama Tsongkhapa's spiritual instructions, the essence of the graduated stages of the path to enlightenment, that unmistaken collection of key points, through these spiritual instructions, may all migrators progress along the path that delights the conquerors.
Adine jo marme zeta zonga besine joji anejige joji janshu lamren ze taben joji lamren ze de doide sanyi yu sonji be dodan yu tam jige ningbo donda ningbo di nyamlen je donda ningbo chu du shine an donda ningbo di du shine joji ge ne janshu lamren na song yores dadi janshu lamren de je rim chigi nyamlen nang nyamyo to ne de janshu lamren yu kongba diki pa je ne kongba je shine an digi an kongba diki donda ningbo diki chasa an da je rim chigi lamrim chenpo dang ding dang an da de lamrim yudun shine on du na ne song she yores 조제 말매 제다 종아베게 덴비 니고 자주 람지 림 세도 제사 덴비 이제 제일 뭐 조지기 덴비 니고 세야디 상지기 손셰비 도당 유나를 손셰비 돈다 니보디 파 니고 세도 돈다 니보 수 뒤제데 자주 람전는 손바레스 제사 데니기 돈다 니보디 제일 뭐 치게 수바 람림날 봐 뒤진 돈다 니보디 돈다디 제사 제일 뭐 치기 안 람림날 람르 쳔보제 징제 안충어제 니나 송샤레세 자주 람지르면 냠란지야데 덴베 니고 자주 람지림세.
Looking at the first two lines, through Lama Atisha and Lama Tsongkhapa's spiritual instructions, the essence of the graduated stages of the path to enlightenment. Lama Atisha was the first to compose a text of the Lam Rim type, or the Lam Rim lineage. In this, he condensed the essence, he condensed the stages, all the stages that one needs to train in order to progress to enlightenment. And he composed it in a very brief manner too. Je Rinpoche commented extensively on this text by Lama Atisha, The Lamp on the Path to Enlightenment. Je Rinpoche first composed the Great Lam Rim Chemo, then the Middling Lam Rim, and here, what is commented here is the Small Lam Rim, or the Song of Spiritual Experience. So this is why we have reference in the first line to both Lama Atisha and Lama Tsongkhapa. And Lama Tsongkhapa's spiritual instructions, specifically here amongst his many texts he composed, refer to the three Lam Rim texts. Then the second line, the essence of the graduated stages of the path to enlightenment. So this then will refer specifically to the Song of Spiritual Experience, to which Sonam Gyatso has commented.
And George and Je Rinpoche Sonje Biki, that Damba said, Damba Nigudi, and Gyatso Lam Rimba de Gyatso Lam Rimba, the Gibuchung Lam Rimba, Lochana, Jingiram, Tabachim Lam Rimba, and Dodanga Lam Rimba de that Nihu said, the Nihu said, the Gari Nihu said, the Ningbola, Gari Ningbola, Sanya Jumnen Digi, Dohadan Gunalba, and Sanje go on to Tarbada, Tamje Kimbo go on, Lam Ten Shembig, Dona Ningbody to Dusha Sonchig, Lam Rimaniam Jeta de S or Dambi Nihu, Gyatso Lam Rimba said, the George Je Rinpoche Sonje Lam Rimba.
Through Lama Atisha and Lama Tsongkhapa's spiritual instructions, the essence of the graduated stages of the path to enlightenment. This term then, spiritual instructions, then we can understand that as it is the instructions, meditation instructions that have been presented in the Lam Rim tradition. So those are the trainings which are shared with the practitioner of initial capacity, the training shared with the practitioner of intermediate capacity, and the trainings that are unique to a practitioner of greatest capacity, and within that, both the sutra and the tantra trainings. So the essence of all those many stages that are required to cultivate within oneself in order to achieve enlightenment, the essence of the meaning of those stages is what was composed in the Lam Rim Text. And those are the spiritual instructions referred to here.
That Sonam Gyatso Korongi Sungorda, Lamji Ni du Manor Tambati, said Jazada, Je Rinpoche, Gyatso Lam George, Lamringi Java, the Je Rinpoche, Lam Rim Chembo, Jing Chung Sum Sung. Digi Dunda Ningbo Dida, Lam Rim Duden, Lam Rim Chungunala, Dunda Ningbo Dushabadi, Lam Rim Duden, the Patsawa Cheche, Di Ningbo Dunda di Pa Java Sudu, and Lam Sershuma said, Jeza Lamji near Chasan, Dushe, Dunda Ningbo Chasan, and Manoa, Machubaje, Sosugi, Yamlin Jedu, Dede Dela Dene, Yamleje, Tersam Gomsum, Soso Yamyon Tone, that Lam Rim Duden gets Zawadache, Di Tevi Suchen, and Lam Sershuma Dinalia, and Dunda Ningbo Tiki, Lam Dunda Ningbo Chasan, Mano, Machuba, Chasan Wajik, Sun Yes, or that near to Manor Tambatis. The Lam Rim Sershuma. Sonam Gyatso Korongi, the Sershima, the Son, the Canison Bares, and Kunkawatu Gures, and Kundi, Je Rinpoche, Lamdrenda, Je Rinpoche, Lamdrin, Dudundi, Tikung to Tizawache, Digi, Dunda Nimbo Chasa, Chitpa, Manoa, Manoa, Chikorum Matuba, Chasan, Yonso Sobaji, Pa Sun Yu said, Lemon Sergiban, Sun Yu said, the Jirum Suanaji, Lemon Sergi Migi, City Carayors, and Dordushi, Yun Badla, Jajadi, Chasan, Lemon Nala Sonji, Dunda Nimbo Chasan, Santuba, Manoa, Matuba, Chin, on those Sun Yu or Dambadis.
With the second and third line, the essence of the graduated stages of the path to enlightenment, that unmistaken collection of points. Here, and Sonam Gyatso is referring specifically to the text that he has composed, the essence of refined gold, thank you. That here, he has followed Je Rinpoche's example, whilst he's commented on the Song of Spiritual Experience, he in the same spirit as Lama Tsongkhapa, has composed a text of very few words that is easy to understand, where the meaning is complete and unmistaken. So that was exactly, that same expression can be made about Lama Tsongkhapa's Song of Spiritual Experience. That too, very few words, easy to understand, and complete and unmistaken. So here, by Sonam Gyatso writing in the third line, that unmistaken collection of points, he's referring to his text being a collection, so the condensed trainings to enlightenment, and the key points, that's all the key points of the 3 stages, and is unmistaken.
Je Rinpoche Lam Rim Text sosorge nyamnyon sa dene nyamnyon tone an ya ji Lam Rim sejubi dinal ya dona nibo chasan chala mano ma chu ba je ba sonje dian sumba dian xian le pan be che du sumba yiza dene ge gewa ba to me ba sa yo re so jasan gewa ba to me ba sa ba di gewan di an tula dene khar jo sna de an Lam Rim sejubi ma sonje be ge de ya ji do semjan cha sa an ji ge 잠니제 전슈셈 80주기 냠낸 제제 야상이 고방 되비 규규와쇼 세다 조군스 조심전 간지네 야와기베 람시르다 마저기 대시 기부치 춘르시 람기는 바 차상와디 대시 세 람디게 제산 되네게 냠낸 제제 죄버르 쇼스나 코웨 제솔 죄제 안 상이 고방 도버쇼 더비 규규와쇼 세다 노시 만남 나와르다
I'll read the verse again. Through Lama Atisha and Lama Tsongkhapa's spiritual instructions, the essence of the graduated stages of the path to enlightenment, that unmistaken collection of points, through these spiritual instructions, may all migrators progress along the path that delights the conquerors. So here in the last line, Sonam Gyatso is dedicating the merit that he accumulated through composing this text. Like Je Rinpoche, he composed this text with the motivation of love and compassion for all sentient beings, that they may attain enlightenment. Love and compassion for sentient beings of all capacities, those who have yet to give rise to an aspiration to attain a path, those who are aspiring to give rise to a path, and those who have. And whether they are a practitioner of small, intermediate, or supreme capacity, with love and compassion for all such beings, he composed this text, and now he dedicates that the purpose of the intent of all the conquerors is fulfilled. Through these spiritual instructions, may all migrators progress along the path that delights the conquerors. So what is it that delights the conquerors? It's migrators progressing along the path. In other words, migrators or sentient beings generating or giving rise to these paths within their own continuum. That is what delights the conquerors. And it's to that end that Sonam Gyatso is dedicating here.
Je Rinpoche sonje begi gibu chungyu lamji rinpa da dinge lamji gibu chimbe lamji rinpe nyamlen cheta lamji rinpa ngaagi rinpa lamji rinpe nyamlen cheta di da ma Je Rinpoche sonje begi nyamlen che rinpa di lam nyamlen deso ane lamji rinpe chi ma Je Rinpoche ma sonje begi chi di duzi ser na shire es da Je Rinpoche ki Lam Rim Chiri Chunsum Sonje, Lam Rim Chiri Chunsum Body, Duzi Serna Chiris, Dina de Chuja de Chasan, and Kiwu Chibu Chiri Chunsum, Sanyo Koban Tobrazi, Lam Yamchi Lam Chasan, Dina de Yore Essage. That the Duzi Anzola, Lulyon Vena, and Lule Digia, the Nena Seada, Chiche, and the Combure Serna, she is not the Blenal, Ser the Combo in Zadina, Combo Shu de Essage, Sachimbo Essage Sungore. The Je Rinpoche that Soyagi Lam Rim Text Sungore.
Now we come to the colophon. This concludes the essence of refined gold, an exposition of the stages of path of the 3 levels of spiritual application. So here we can see the full name of the text. So I'll just translate it a little bit more literally. So it's something like the refined gold, the nectar leading through the stages of the path of beings of 3 scopes, or the 3 types of beings. So literally, the title of our text, because there's no word essence here, but perhaps the translator took nectar and made that into essence. So we have then the refined gold, the refined gold, the nectar leading along the stages of the path of being the 3 types of beings. So that is the actual title of the text. And the meaning then of the word nectar is, we could say nectar is something very rare in the world. What nectar is as it's attained within oneself, it develops within oneself, it brings a bliss and lasting happiness. And that is what training in these paths, in the paths laid out in this text, that is what is achieved, the bliss of lasting happiness.
Serci danga ser dang bu nyu de ma yang je xu xie pa ji 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 de pa di na ne yang ji de se duo yuan ru xue de pa duan jin da de yang ji ser na de bu da shuo che ser yu yang xun si ge ruo bie ru shi ba di na xian de Je Rinpoche ka sa de jiao sun bi song ji bi lam ri ne song bi ji de le ser xun ma lam ri ser xun ma la res de ka res ne Je Rinpoche song ji bi lam ri chen bo da ding da chen bo nam la cik be don da Cik mangbo wa zang di pa lam rim se shun ba jiao Sonam bi song de cik di pa du du je don da de cha sang yue de ba che da Je Rinpoche song ji ba lam rim du den ji wa di cik je yang ya wa cik je yang ya cik yong ma de yo ma ji zang di gi pa cik je di don da la yang ji ka xie go kha yue zang di pa de wa che je lam rim ka so le lam rim du den di gi de wa ma je xie cik je di pa de wa che che Lam Rim Text le sik ma wa ro che che. Je san di na de cha san ning bu che san su du je ne du che ne song xia ba yan za da ming chen de le ya an nge de de som xia be ge Lam Rim ge tao ma du ding ge tao zum xia ming de le ya Lam Rim se xu ma la ge ye se ko da chen de.
The reason for refined gold being in the title of the text, because is, as we know, perhaps mainly coming from this gold area in Bendigo, gold, when it's initially found, needs to be refined of impurities or purified of impurities. So we can understand gold being the teachings of the Buddha and his accomplished students. And why refined? So here we can understand it to be refined in terms of brevity. So we think of, this is a commentary on the Lam Rim texts. And Je Rinpoche wrote extensive Lam Rim texts, the Great Lam Rim and the Middling Lam Rim, many, many words in there. And then he wrote a very short Lam Rim, the Song of Spiritual Experience. So this text here is like a refining or a condensing of those 2 larger Lam Rims, but more expansive though than the very short Lam Rim by Lama Tsongkhapa. What Gyatso has composed, or the purpose with his book, with his text, is to flesh out slightly the short Lam Rim of Lama Tsongkhapa, the Song of Spiritual Expression, just with adding a few more words, a few more details on how we can train our mind in all the stages of the path.
Je Lamik Nyamgurda Charne said Lam Rim Text said the Ming Lam Nyamgur Sungure, Delpa Zawa the Chati, Jawa Dushan Jarne, Ker Dewa Goba Ins, Ker Dewa Sene, then Nyamlenchella, Dumdivo, Sixty Yagan and Hashi, 60 some time Dunda the Goma to a Yungur Chesa, 60 George, the city Dunda Hakoba, Lam Rim Champo, the Jinch and the Tigmuba, Chasang Su Nyamlenchen, Gomja that Tesum Japan, Dumdivo Samburg, the Yawash Survey in Sora.
And Sonam Gyatso's colophon continues, based upon Je Rinpoche's Song of the Stages of the Spiritual Path and arranged in a format easy to follow. So yeah, he's saying this text is that he's composed is a commentary to Lama Tsongkhapa's Song of Spiritual Experience, and he too has written it in a way that is easy to follow. In other words, one doesn't need a dictionary to understand this text. One can read it and very easily come to understand the meaning.
Onda Bendigo somebody on Gobadi, Semjan Tamje, Ya Pempe Cheda, Semjan Tamja Sanjo Gova to Chido, that Gova Jigzo Dira.
And the aspiration for the composition of the text, or the purpose rather, was for all sentient beings to achieve enlightenment.
Denege zomro che sene bögu shu sonsi or da su shu barela na de bögu shu da lama de chen tün gor din ma denbi serji chenbo lukdile shindo meshin don don yerwa sen denbi serji sene sanyu jumden de denba serji sene da ba din ke don da ning bo ti ma se bo chin ma xie de song bi ge da jo che da je rim che la so ba da ani ya ga gi ngomo lu ru la so ba an denege denbi serji Konzuge Sunshaba de la Shin Pet Konzula Debata, Meva, Mation City, Deslia, and Pe Debatan, and the Meva Gabuche, and Di Sunjibu Duana, and Yamlenchele, Dunya Udega, Yovas or that Chechudi, Kansati, Chechudi Higore.
The colophon continues. It is in the tradition of clarified doctrine and therefore is worthy of admiration and interest. So maybe the translation isn't entirely right, but it's okay. We can understand that it is in the tradition of the clarified doctrine. In other words, it's in the tradition of the doctrine of Buddha Shakyamuni. And maybe you can say, and also those who are worthy of admiration and interest. Well, of admiration, sorry, and worthy of those, and also those worthy of admiration. So here referring again to Lama Atisha and Lama Tsongkhapa. This text that is being composed is in accordance with Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings as well as those of Lama Atisha and Lama Tsongkhapa. And therefore, and the term "and interest," it's worthy for one, and interest really, to express it differently, it's worthy to strive to cultivate within you. So that would be the meaning of interest.
Kunjin Chimbo, Sherap Besangi, Dansawa Chimbo, Chimbo Lasha, the Chimbo is the Chimbo, and the Chichi, so and Nancher Taba, Nancher Guala, Dini, Chisada Ticheba de Carson, Kunjin Chimbo, Sherap Besan said the Lama Korongi, Chata Shibi Dansa, the Lobsang Chesachi or Combachures, Delia, and Delia and Casore danza del Lumia Jeshu again and Deshu Chuji said Lamati meeting said Chuji said yours, Korongi Alia, Denigi and Lam Rim Dudin, Tawach and Dushan, Chixunro Ches and Ya, and Shalia, Rajan Nigale Pembe to Pando Chimbu on Sarech and Shalia Pando Chimba, Dinish Sunro Ches and Korongia, Malia, Mangus. Yeah, so at the songs or language songs or language again, media Lama sending us to Chuji, or that. To Chuji, the near the Koron Gawashu or the Sene, Shuksa the Gawashu, Kunjin Shera Sambasibi, dancer dinner day or shoe yours, dinner day shoe yours. Tizan Koron Garriors and the near Shady, Jerry Machena, George, and Jerry Macha, and the chick, 공부 루르라서 그런 쪽에 태바침에 사이기 최 냠는지 대리야 안치 대바는 되녀리 대리야 안에 롭장 냠는지 되게 지리스 아니 그런 게 갈이야 네기 파 직자와지 두스나베나 좀 나베네 판도 침부용사를 시안에 판도 야부용사를 말이야 두신 좀으로 치세네 송로치네 바꾸마치 송아세 왔다.
The colophon then continues where Sonam Gyatso states who requested that he composes this text and where he was when he composed it. And so he accepted this request because he understood the great benefit that would come not just for the person who had made the request, but for his students and those who would follow in generations to come. So the colophon continues. It was written at the repeated request of Dorje from the eminent abode of omniscient Sherpa Palsang by the Buddhist monk and teacher Sonam Gyatso at the great site of Dharma activity, the mighty Drepung Monastery, in the room called Swirling Sunbeams in the Palace of Sublime Joy.
나주에 참원에서 나주에 참원에 이제 라메 진일레 비게 참아토바서 단 여수님께서 코로나서 가랑 충충 갑네 아니 제를 뭐지게 나주에 참어서 가랑 꾸충충 갑이네 제라메 진일레 비게 참아토바서도 이제 라메 할이야 진일라바임바 아니 따다 참아 세부 되네 예스 제가 되네자 나 저기 나 되네게 충충 갑네 되네 되네자 가랑게 제를 뭐지게 람림 손시베 람림려 퇴삼 꼼숨 전에 즉 냠는 전에 소속이 냠녀도 송거다.
And furthermore, Gyowan's, bearing in mind, so these are his words, he's composing this, so we have here Sonam Gyatso, we can understand this. I, even while only a baby, received signs of being in communication with Je Rinpoche. So he's saying this about himself to make abundantly clear why he is qualified to comment on Je Rinpoche's text, and that he is not commenting based merely on intellectual knowledge, but also on experience.
지난 여점에서 그런 게 캐셔로 송거로 받았든지 되는 시에서 안데네 샤기의 결론 최마외 준바 신대자 최 샤기의 결론 시대 샤기아시대 샤기 리수 주변 된바 샤기아 투바 니기 최려 안지게 제수 쉬어네 냠는제 안데 될야 안지 상유 줌는지 송샤비게 도네 도디네 송샤바 나신제는 년조게 동바슈 될야 냠는 지겐지 인서를 결론을 동바드비 최마와세도 그디네 상유 줌는지 송비 최될야 소소게 퇴섬 곰숨제 냠는제 샬래야 팬비 셈비고네 샬래야 안도시네 도시네 안도시네 차례를 마소나 내가 마소 되는 신난 거에서 시작이 결론 최마와서 최마위 준바세 로샤기 결론 최마위 준바세 나수의 참여들이 참아 토바세 디원 맞미네
So the bit Geshe just read, we read already. So it goes back up, so I'll just read it again. By the Buddhist monk and teacher Sonam Gyatso at the great site of Dharma activity, and maybe only that for now.
대단치마와 땡이 밀레가스네 Sonam Gyatso la guerese korang chendise. Da dinigi shune ane je kao shugore sene panden devung chudi chembo sede pa devung kan ka bede sera kan devung se jorowa and das chembo ane devung lu shuyes ane simkang gaden podang sede de delia shusaki podang da korangge shachoro delia gaden podans 뉴게 넘버 키와선 온도스체네 송고래 제레 첸 쿠슈세게 사체 니에당 강바다 도스체네 송고래.
Now, where he composed it, so I read it a bit too soon earlier. The mighty Drepung, composed by Sonam Gyatso at the great site of Dharma activity, the mighty Drepung Monastery, in the room called Swirling Sunbeams in the Palace of Sublime Joy.
지산 다디디 Lam Rim 세슈마 좀야디 사제디 가와 좀바레라나 겐테풍 아니 소소로 그런 게 심샤날 바 디바 인세요 제도시 자이베스 되는 자이베 템비 닝보 초군도 개발 제뉴바 규지 시대 되게 좀비게 개화딜라 되네 아니 사유 템비 닝보 사유 좀는 되게 템비게 냠는 제소데 자주심 요군에라데 파신 주게 냠낸다 아니 람 계속이 좀 냠는 제에 되게 차상데 초군도 느슨 심전 탐지게 된 냠는 제 뒤에 비 용어쇼 세대도 스몰람 개발이다.
Concludes with a prayer. May it cause the quiescence of good explanation to spread in the 10 directions.
다디 차상 차발에 다디는 자네 건마 잔주 람지림비 티세게 슈마 예자와 슈소 제줄 라마 접숨 군디요 다니 쳔보 간디 샤블로 그바 쳔베 차스네 접수 지워 진일라도 소스 델란디 다주게 델라 닝보 렘버 되베 기본 남기 냠솔라와 자와네 자와 예베 소라 탐지 니보 뒤숨 파바 탐지 유저바 지웨 람 신대 쳔보 루루다 토메게 람스에 나바 탐지 킴비 서르 죄비 기wo 초기 출루 기부숨게 람냠솔랑제 림바 탐제 마사와 메번 뒤바 잔주 람지 림바 셰자바 딩이 인라스 어다디 도시자 어디 다디 그런 로 말.
That brings us to the conclusion of the text, and again I just read something, or read the first few lines again of the text for auspiciousness.
Adundala din ma kona ma tsikhashi la shaye and din ma ji share la de mo ba ne share ya ge dundala dendera chin tu sungo re namin.
This is part of our tradition, and the reason we do it is to create a further auspicious connection with the text. And in this, the particular aspect of auspicious connection is so that you once again have the opportunity to receive teachings on this text.
Lam Rim says you ma tine da Lam Rim ge don da ning bo cha sa di an zu ge ma chi shu sa ba de je san din ni za da an zu 냠는 제디 다던다 냠는 첨보 나라 소에 나 징나 소에 충나 소에 던다 인보 차상 땅아 저기 두시네 쉬사바래.
Now, time together, these 108 classes, we've looked, as we've gone through this text, at all of the stages that one needs to train in to generate all the paths required in order to achieve enlightenment.
저기 마 달림비기 냠는 제대 그림바로 제 직도르 쉬셔면 담보 코로나 가능도 뒤로와 다제 당한도 신의 람림 샤르금 제소 검도 스림바노 검 삼다 제대는 아주 쉬어야라 내가 지대 자와세야디 소식이 강반 단남윤의 내가 지대 자 구성도기 된 잠바세 저러와다 다디 남윤은 아주 지게 강변을 구성 된주여 봐이나 다 내원지다 자와도 제화요마 요요바래 제가 야나 된 마진은 최바 부의 연체 부의 되게 부는 최바 요매 봐 샤바세야디 안디 최고래 안디 제래야 근데 지게 군농 다스 군농제 심자 탐제 된도 장셔 심교 군에 나야다 아니 겸로해야 돼 겸로해야 돼 근데 소식이 되려야 다 구성도기 된다 봐도 구성 투여야 돼 되게 어느 소식에 Lamada Sanyo Chimneti, Kungo Shu Samje, and the Jabu City in Samje Delia, and the Cheba Pui, and the answer Cambridge Adire, and the Jelang Anzugi Dianjik, Sorshin, Sorsayagutana, Sorshin Satabas, Sigurua, Sorshin Sada, sitting on the Lam Rim Sorshin to get come to Yadi, come Yadis Sungurua. That's all.
So I encourage you, in terms of your morning meditation, or whenever you have time to do your meditation, set up your altar as usual by making offerings of water bowls and butter lamps and incense and so forth. And then you sit down on your meditation seat and visualize before oneself the Buddha, indivisible in nature from your Lama, and then go for refuge to the three jewels and generate bodhicitta within oneself. And also surrounding the Buddha, imagine that this area now is a pure land.
DJ 저 가령 오르스네 다 기회신이 고마세 기회신이 저 공부하셔야 되지 최고로 다 기회신에서 좀 더 소속이 라마 델리아 상계당 공의 개발에 지부지간이 세대 상계당 오 예르메스 라미 구순도 연대한 대해제 라마야 대바체 라마야 구십제 하나 그진치 부인스 라미기 그진치 수tembe권에 구십제당 라미기 구순도 연대전에 대바체 삼다에 당가지고 도르디 슈베나다 기회신이 돼서 겁나디 되네게 삼다바에 기회신이 돼서 겁받 최고래.
Start then your meditation by reflecting that your spiritual teacher is in nature indivisible from the Buddha visualized before one. Thereafter reflect on his qualities of body, speech and mind and his tremendous kindness.
디젤량은 저기에다 된주기 루틴에서 제산 되네게 된상부터 빼야고 인다 데트사 치면 디텐들이야 개와 같이 두두체 두긴 선배 삼다에 차오라.
Thereafter, reflect briefly on the precious human rebirth we've all achieved, and do so generating a feeling of great fortune, how fortunate we are. And this then should lead us to make the commitment that I will utilize this precious human rebirth to make my life meaningful.
디진의 기부 중에 남긴 발로 장하다 시해야 돼. 다 되네게 드링電山 되네 토토바디 네 게디 지야게 내봐요 말에 세상에 미다 말에 세상다 지로바에는 마지니엘이야 드링이 개와 침만 남소이나야 아니 지게 람냠len 제게 된 개발전電山 토바제비 토바지긴 선배게 삼 토바쇼 선배 토바지긴 선배 삼다 디토능에는 개외자와 디버 사야 디버 빠야당 아니 가서 오래 개와 사야 안 디버 줘야 지자산 지긴 선배 삼다에 대한 기부 중요한 남일 불러자다 돌디디 차거래.
Thereafter, remind ourselves of the impermanence of this great opportunity that we've achieved, and therefore we should not delay, we should not postpone our accumulation of virtue and purification of negativities. Therefore we commit to doing so. So this, in brief, is the trainings of a practitioner of initial capacity.
안디네 제리야 기부 딩게람이 삼다에다 나저기 돌디 삼다베나 다 감숨 코와 강도 삼다베나 둥아이라 신레샤다 둥아 딜레 마탄다 탈비누 둥아 딜레 탈비 둥아게 유 레뇨 바샤다 제 빵비 빵바 탈바세데 토벌지긴 삼베 삼다에데.
Then moving to the trainings that are shared with the practitioner of intermediate capacity, here one reflects on the sufferings of samsara, generating the recognition that there is no peace to be found in cyclic existence. There's nothing worth striving for or desiring within cyclic existence, in that there is no lasting happiness to be found, and thereby giving rise to a determination to attain liberation from suffering.
기부 침벨람 이름바 삼명도 어다 다랑 나신 대화되바는 심전 탐제 대화되바래 동아 미도가 찍바래 대해자다 다리바동이 가르쳐봐서 랑치징의 삼바디기 노트침부 차사다 랑치징 삼바사 기니 기주메스 지사다 랑치징의 삼바기 찹려야 현재바 점배 삼려 현리아 판바 주나스 현디기 주나스 배 현심전them 들기 중화 쇼어세배 현심전지 동아다 자와 쇼어세배 삼다제 잠니제 삼다 디젤야 심전템제 대화다 디위규다 덴바다 심전템제 코르베 동아다 자지 야상예슬랭이 꾸긴 선비게 하산남다 삼다 인상의 심전템지기 되는 상여 코바 토바쇼 선비랑 아주 자주셈 두스네 삼다에 최고로와.
Having recognized the actual situation in cyclic existence and given rise to determination to be freed from samsara, then engage in the trainings that are unique to a practitioner of greatest capacity, recognizing that all sentient beings on a fundamental level are the same, in that we all long for happiness and want to be freed of pain and misery. But it's actually our own self-cherishing mind that causes us all our pain and suffering. We are the creators of our own pain. And not only that, but it's through being under the influence of the self-cherishing that we bring pain into the lives of others. recognizing that they are the same as us, commit to strive to abandon the self-cherishing and at least not to be influenced by it, but rather to generate now a new motivation, a new driving force, and that is love and compassion. Love and compassion for all beings without exception. Develop this further into the altruistic attitude of universal responsibility and bodhicitta, the determination to become a Buddha for the sake of others.
안데 심제 남지게 상요고 뭐 토비 지긴 선배 삼다네 되는 아니 짐바 진소 팔진 쪽이 냠는 지긴 선배 삼다나 다도 신의 삼다샤베나 아 저기 뒤뒤 통도 지나리아 네 람림 람지리 자주 람지리 미기고 숨기 람지리 뭐 샤르곰세도 곰 잡다 돌듯이 뒤뒤 통도 나리아 직 살고로 방아서 뒤수 샤라 마중 바이나.
And thereafter, having generated bodhicitta, one reflects on the activities of a bodhisattva, the 6 perfections. So there was a very brief meditation on the Lam Rim. It's called a glance meditation, and it's ideal for those who don't have much spare time. It can be done in the few minutes that I took now to present it to you.
데네게 양지 뒤수 공부를 제한 딜에 뒤수라지 당면에 딜에 돌뒤체 삼다수고래 아 저기 딜리아 템바샤게 되고 딜리아 안에 랑기 뭐 라마다 뭐 예르메인 세데 도시네 세답 아니 난 상계시나 템바샤게 두바스나 라마스나 이담스나 차상 결혼이 선배 딜리아 데바세지도 제제 안 딜리아 구송도 유인된 데베톤데 데바세지 데네게도 오신 제자다 데네 장에 semjan 탐지게 된다려야 아니 결혼기 semjan 탐지게 상게 반나시게 기다 semjan의 동안다 자고도 semjan의 되게 된 거도 디인자들 semjan 대화다 대바 동안 자와다 게 지기 디에 semjan 탐지 상고가 토벌쇼 선배게 데네게 삼다 안디 된다려야 semjan 탐지게 상게 고바 토베 줄 디링이 아니 자와샤 류가 유심 요건에 자와 카드시 샤네 펜바지 용어쇼 선배게 펜바지기 선배 janshusime chobala labgi sambe dushine samdade ne dushine samdabe na ngazuge ta delya anu yencha phuya inada ngazu puya phuya nan kadyen roji kare chena de dushine semje 탐지게 된다 상유도비 치 인 삼제 dushine 지게 제샤be na ngazu 통동시 날이야 지게 게초사야려 차산디 둠디고라지어로다.
For those whose life is very busy, and you can't even give a few minutes to meditation, then I'll present an even shorter one now. For those who do have a bit of time, you can reflect in the way I'm about to present many times throughout the day. Firstly, visualize Buddha Shakyamuni. Remind yourself that he's indivisible in nature from one's Lama and Yidam, and generate a faith and trust and conviction in one's Lama and Yidam and Buddha Shakyamuni. Thereafter, commit that for the sake of all sentient beings, you will act in accordance with the heartfelt wishes of your Lama and the Buddha, which is to take care of our mind in all our activities, whether with others or on our own, and ensure that our mind is always virtuous and doesn't come under the influence of the afflictions, and commit to ensuring thereby that our activities never bring harm to others, but wherever we can, we benefit them. So that is a very brief meditation that I'm sure everyone can do, and I'd encourage you to also do it throughout the course of your day.
개화 빠도 매바죠 사요래 데네자다 개화 빠 데네기 디링아 저게 된 데네기 고가 브라와 텔리아 베마세 가와 상고지다 차상 렘르 세주마 차상 아주 지인지 알아봐디 고가 약고시우라 디 디선은 빠도 매바죠 사요래 디자 데네자다 선남디 당아 저게 소수지 보면 샘제 탐지기 된다리아 당고와야디 아 저게 개화 사샤바디 고와야디 수르 차거로.
Now we've completed this extensive series of teachings on this text, and over this period of time, we've all accumulated huge stores of merit. I've of course been here for all of the classes, and many of you have been here for many of them too. So we really are so fortunate to have been able to hear and thereby reflect and meditate during these classes on the meaning of the Lam Rim. This is something incredibly rare, and we are supremely fortunate. And throughout these classes, we all have created extensive merit. And we came here and we've listened and reflected to these teachings, not just for our own benefit, but for all others. Not just our own benefit, not just for those we have direct contact with, but for all beings. So now when we come to dedicate this vast store of merit that we've created over these 2.5 years, dedicated for all sentient beings without exception.
Kono kusirin temba ina kono zugi ma jigi duja pado me balya an jigi chue xia da de nige xianlia digi zhubi dunga sila pando chenpo yungu yo baza an kusirin bu yebe gi gyur gyur shuo xia da an di ma se nga zugi da jidane ji nga zugi gyawara mi chere an subara mi chere di men bige da nga zugi sa kya ge yu nyingma risu ma shi bige da yu 율당 안에 가와 유변의 미릭당 강기 토네 되니게 냠는 지디가 차상 안에 구체적으로 된 바다 나는 그런 쪽에 지게 잘이야 되니게 롭된 지역이 람니 림바디게 야고용 워셔야 돼 아주 말람 잘해.
When we dedicate to the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Lama Rinpoche, both of whom do such inconceivable good in the world, their mere presence brings so much benefit. And also dedicate for the long life of all the lamas, of all 4 traditions, of the Nyingma, the Kagyu, the Sakya and the Gelug, as well as the great lamas or the great spiritual teachers of other religious traditions, as well as those of no religion, but who are doing good in the world. So dedicate to their long life and the rapid success of all their aspirations. Also, that all the overt suffering in the world, such as illness, the pandemic, warfare, conflict between groups and individuals, that these all are pacified and that all beings attain comfortable conditions to live their lives.
안시에 몽부지리 양아 저기 최셰제다 최년제 공직 최쇼토네 자와 지우지제 고급레고레 디네 라바네 미 빠메발 핑고레 데데자 당아 저기 최쇼기 양아 저 최소기 아니 최쇼기 자와 간지한 디수차상 람려하고 용하다 엔디마세 마 저기 최쇼기 공기 다지 지게 간지수여베나 차상 저 냠nen디게 야고 용와 류디와 다심디와 최주발라 바시 탐제 세네 튀년 차상 줍제 소소의 냠내 야고제다 아니 샤래야 판도 계신 무주투비게 엔규르규화쇼 세디 온도시는 말람제레.
Also dedicate that our Dharma Center and others like it, that they flourish and do well. We as individuals are so fortunate to have connection with this and other Dharma centers. And these places such as these bring such benefit in the world. So also please dedicate that the projects and aspirations of the Dharma Center, that these are all fulfilled. And also all the staff and volunteers of Dharma Centers, that all their spiritual aspirations, these too are quickly fulfilled.
최소하다 되게 대체 야보친 최소 조제 현례 판벌주득은 간의 시험에나 차상은 람로 야보 용화다 도스만남자를 더르드나 당하서 차상 zem리 차상 시디 용화쇼 상한주게 개와 사바텔라든 시디 용화다 아주네 체럽네 체럽도 아니 다디 람 기부 숨기 람이 림발이야 롭정 제제 최상 검소 산조 고바 토비 귤교와 쇼세데 당한저디 말음제 되는시다.
And related to this, don't only make these aspirations for our and other Dharma centers, but all organizations that are working to improve the situation of beings, human and non-human, religious, non-religious, all these organizations and their staff and volunteers, may their virtuous aspirations be quickly fulfilled in accordance with the Dharma. What I've presented thus far, if we want to dedicate in a very brief way, pray that peace prevails in the world, inner peace and thereby outer peace. And then lastly, that our aspirations and those of all beings in terms of the Dharma are rapidly fulfilled, that for now and throughout this and all future lives we continue uninterruptedly, without obstacle, in the cultivation of the paths unique, shared with beings of initial and intermediate capacity, quickly entering the bodhisattva paths, training successfully in the paths of the Mahayana. Next week then, I'm going to start a new text, and that will be to give a commentary on the Lama Chöpa, or the Guru Puja. So this is a very powerful text that by which one can accumulate vast stores of merit and extensive purification through seeing the Lama as indivisible in nature with the Buddha. Thank you so much.